Hey guys, Dr. Ben here. Welcome to a Power Pack Brokerpreneur Byte. Get ready to dive into proven strategies for recruiting top talent, retaining your best agents, and skyrocketing sales in the next 10 minutes. I'm your host, of course, Dr. Ben Spears, along with our real estate guru, Matt Vi. Join us as we unravel the secrets to take your brokerage to new heights. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Recruiting Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Matt Vi. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. How are you doing, Dr. Ben Spears? You doing good today?
Oh my gosh, dude, I'm doing so well. I'm excited about the topic that we have. I'm going to go ahead and, I don't want to be spoiler alert, of course, but guys, if you listen all the way to the end, we got something very special that we want to do for you. And I hope everyone takes advantage of it. It is just a value add. So be smart, take advantage of it. And
don't skip to the end. Listen to the end, because this is a great topic. This is a fantastic topic. So when we started talking about this, we said, what do we need to put on the docket, to talk about next? And we were like, people want to know that, we're talking about all the time about being a good recruiter, right? So people want to know how to stack themselves, right? How do you stack up, right? What makes you a good recruiter? Not necessarily in our eyes, what makes you a good recruiter, but what in your own eyes, as the manager that's doing the recruiting, what makes you a good recruiter, right? So that's what we wanted to talk about today. We wanted to find a way that you could kind of assess your success, right? Is the best way of putting it. Give you some things to
a report card.
Right. That's exactly right. It's a bill of health.
Yeah. It's like, I'm recruiting at a first grade level.
Well, I just graduated from Kick-Ass University with a full degree on hiring agents, man.
Yeah, exactly. So we talk all the time. Every episode. The last one we talked a little bit about 5 ways to fail, and I got a little bit into that one. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You got a little off the tracks. I ain't gonna lie.
I got a little Grinch, and that's okay.
Right.
But we talk all the time about being different things that you can do to become a great recruiter. But it's like, okay, when you put all these things together, right? And it's A plus B plus C plus D. What does it look like at the end of the day to be a good recruiter? Right. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. You may think you're good, but are you as good as you think you are? You may think you suck, but are you as bad as you think you are? So let's just dive right into it, man.
I love it. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit on five different things that you can measure with. Okay. Yep. And we're going to talk a little bit about each one of those. Right. So you diving right into it. The first one is, what metrics are you actually going to use in order to determine whether you think you're succeeding or not?
Okay? Yeah, exactly. Right. I said report card a second ago, you say, there's history, there's math, there's science. Yep. Right. I got an A, I got a B, I got a D, I got an F plus.
Did you ever get a B? Tell me the truth. Did you ever get a B?
I did. I did. I got a couple B's in my life. My aunt, oddly enough, in 5th grade, was my 5th grade teacher. She gave me my very first B ever.
I'll leave it to your aunt, baby. Keeping shit real.
Yeah, exactly. And she jokes all the time. She's like, me, you're my favorite aunt. Remember that B? My other aunt, she says, I would have never given you a B.
That makes Thanksgiving rough, man. You roll up and you're like, hey, I was in 5th grade before you dropped that on me. Everybody out there in podcast land, I wasn't in 5th grade before I got my first B. Let me just tell you that right now, because there is grammar in the first 3 grades, and we know my grammar ain't so great, nor is my punctuation.
Yeah. We all know Matt can spell B, though.
You mean the flying kind or the other kind?
Just the letter.
Okay. See, I was already misspelling it. I was going to put some E's on it.
So what, and obviously it can be different for everyone, but, what metrics would you say, are most important? What metrics need to be on that report card? What would an overachiever maybe add on top of that?
Yep.
But if you're an underachiever, what are the critical things that you at least need to know this?
Yeah. What are the basics of it? And so you actually said something really important. So let's take a second on that. So there are going to be some fundamentals, right? And that's what we're kind of talking about. These 5 are kind of like the fundamentals. Okay. Yep. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't dig into other ones. It doesn't mean that you can't expound on these, but the truth is they are going to be relatively personal or very specific to your business.
Okay.
Right. And we're going to talk a little bit more about, who you work with and everything and one of the other ones here in a minute, but how you stack up with yourself is completely unique compared to how you stack up with other people, compared to how you stack up within your company.
Right.
Okay. So you need to figure out, to start with, what metrics everyone is looking at. What are the things that everybody's going to pay attention to? That could mean how many calls, if Smile and Dial is part of what you do, right?
Yep.
How many calls does it take to get an appointment, right? Are you getting better at that? Are you the exact same every year? It takes you 42 calls to get one appointment, right? Is that the case?
Yep.
So the key is having some metrics and making sure you're paying attention to those metrics, right? How many, as an example, right? How many co-op transactions do you have to do if you've got a co-op transaction policy? How many co-op transactions do you have to do with your procedure, your policy, or your protocol in order to get an agent, right? You want to pay attention to those things, because all of those metrics are going to make a difference. Appointment to hire is also a big one, right?
Yep.
So we all know that there's a difference between appointments and interviews, right? How many of those do you have to have in order to actually get somebody in the front door, right? And then there's also, net hires. We've talked about net hires, okay?
Yep.
And that's another metric that absolutely should be kept up with. The other one, and Chris Stewart mentioned this in his podcast. This is actually a really good one. So when you're looking at your numbers, and we'll talk a little bit more about this specifically in another one, but what is it? How much money have you brought in the front door from recruits compared to how much has walked out the door during a certain period of time?
Yep, exactly.
Usually it's a year, right?
Yeah. So, and I'm going to specify for everyone, because I don't want them to go searching out there. When Matt said, Chris Stewart mentioned this in his podcast. Chris Stewart doesn't have a podcast, so we interviewed him. We interviewed him, 3 or 4 days ago. So that's what he's talking about. I don't want you to go searching for something that doesn't exist. It's on this channel.
Right. That's right. Yeah. It's in there, and it's labeled with his name. So just go in there and grab onto it. And he talked about it. He hit on a whole bunch of stuff. It was a great podcast.
Yep.
But one of the things he talked about was, measuring year over year, how many agents left and what kind of company dollar and GCI left with them, and what kind of company dollar and GCI that you hired and brought in the front door. That's certainly some important metrics. And like I said, we'll touch more on that in just a second. But before we do, speaking of the market, we need to, the second one is you need to know your market. Okay. And what I mean by know your market is you need to know how many agents are in the market, right? So we were on a coaching call this morning, and one of the managers was relatively new to the group. But he knew exactly how many agents were in what was considered his marketplace. You need to know what zip codes, right? You need to know what zip codes you're actually pulling from, because proximity to a home makes a difference to some agents, depending on what your model is. All that's going to make a difference. So you have to know, how many people are available inside that market. You have to know how many people are, how many people just moved, right? So there's some tools that you can use to see how many agents just moved in the past 6 months from one brokerage to another one, right? All of those things are stuff that if you want to be, a boss at recruiting, you've got to have some kind of idea about those things, just so that you don't get blindsided by it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're a broker owner and you have multiple offices or multiple brokers or whatever working for you, you truly need to know your market in each of those offices. Right. Because then you'll have brokers recruiting all over the place and stepping on each other's toes and what have you.
Yeah. And we just dealt with that again with another brokerage, right?
Yep.
So all that makes a difference. And so you need to know, your markets, how many people are available, how many brokerages there are there new brokerages opening up? Who is it that closes? When I talk about knowing your market, if a new player comes in, you don't want to be in a sales meeting and all of your agents say, oh yeah, did you hear so-and-so just opened up in the market? And you're like, who just what? What just happened?
Yeah, right. Who be what?
So you have to know your market. It's your job as the broker, as the recruiting manager, as that person that's in charge of heading up the growth at your office, and making it part of your culture.